good to be together. Let's start in the traditional way. Mi no tātou. Maia maranga kia tū te rangi e tūnei. Maia maranga ki si te pape e takatu ake nei. Kia tuputu mana. Kia riri te tapu. Kia kōkiri te kaupapa e hui anei tēnei meninga. Whano, haramai te toki. Haume e hui e tae ki e. Kia ora tātou. So we'll start with apologies, and we have one for the Mayor. Is there anyone else? No? Okay. Checking any conflicts of interest?
Sorry. Chair, I'm happy to mover and seconder for the apologies, please.
I'm happy to move that apology, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you. And conflicts of interest? None? I'll move that. If someone can second.
Yep.
Thanks, Terry. And also minutes. Is there anything in the minutes that folk want to correct? It looks not.
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Terry. Someone to second, please.
Yep, Robin.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Which we've got then minutes for confirmation. Oh, I didn't cover items not on the agenda because I'm not aware of any, so we won't worry about that. Done the minutes. So we're at item 2.1 and over to you, Amon. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Paul. Thank you. I'd just like to acknowledge Sian John, who's also here to support and answer questions if needed. So the first report I will take as read, but note a couple of key points. One is that we're very close to the end of the project. The project's expected to be completed in line with the revised budget and time extensions. Since our last meeting, we've had a number of public engagements and a round of coastal panel meetings. Those meetings and that information is included in the engagement strategies. So that reflects all the engagement that's been undertaken so far, and we've reflected that against the significance and engagement policy. Those meetings also allowed us to make some updates to our pathways, and those pathways are in Appendix 1, and happy to take any questions or explain anything further in regards to the report or the pathways themselves.
Kia ora, Amon, and if I could ask members just to confirm if I'm not seeing you, as it were, on the virtual screen. If you have any queries, just do say so. So let's open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I've got a couple of little comments to make. Is that okay?
Of course.
Yeah, just page 86. Are we that far down the track? I just thought there was some very good information coming through that we needed to reflect.
I think that's probably the second report.
It's the second report, yeah. Yeah. We'll do that after, will we?
Aye.
Okay. And then page 65, I thought there was some information around that too. I'll just to see if I can just grab that again quickly. Yeah, about the approaches going forward around the dynamic pathways. I thought there was some really good information around those values, hazards, risks, and tolerability, adaptive pathways. So I'm just making comment as I went through it, Amon, to say that I think it's very detailed and very well constructed, and there's a lot of information there that we should be taking on board, and when we get to the comprehensive report, I'm sure we'll discuss that in detail. So yeah, I'm very impressed with how it's been put together.
Kia ora, Terry. Other discussion? Kia ora, Robin.
Hi. I had a quick question, well, a comment really about one of the sections in the project report, page 68. You refer to the technical advisory group, and I did wonder whether there was any merit in having a list in the final document of all of the different people who've fed into that process. I remember early on the bus trip when we went past the schools along the Thames coast, you talked about having to include the Ministry of Education in when appropriate in those working groups. And I just wondered whether it was appropriate to put a list of all the people that have been fed into that process.
Through the chair, sorry, we're still on item 2.1. Those
My
pages
apologies.
In the 2.2, if we can hold that, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Thank
sorry.
you.
I just make a little. There's a spelling mistake. If you need to know that, say I've read the page. But if you want me to highlight that, I can. But that's the only issue that I will raise at the first part of it.
I've got a process question, so hopefully Ian's go. So just want to confirm, Amon, what it is that you want this hui to decide on this report today. And I do recall, and correct me because I may have it wrong, I did see a timeline in one of the sets of papers that seemed to have a decision being made post the council election, and I couldn't understand, if I've got that right, I couldn't understand why we're doing that over and above what we're doing today.
Thank you, Paul. In terms of this report is for information, and it's really a chance for reflection against the engagement that's been undertaken, and acknowledging that that engagement has been considered against our engagement and significance policy. So that's one thing that's quite important for this report. It's also worthwhile if there is any suggestions or questions for clarity on the pathway shown in Appendix 1, because those changes haven't been reflected in previous reports. So there's changes that you wouldn't have seen previously that we're highlighting by putting them in Appendix 1. Probably in terms of the time frame question, the intention is for the report to be recommended to council today, the report and the pathways, and for that a further recommendation to combine those two into an electronic iReport, and those things will go to council on the 13th of September for adoption. So that's
it's pre the election. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, Amon. And it's a precursor to the next report because that's clear in terms of the recommendations that you've touched on. So essentially, the team is asking the committee to receive this report and then obviously pick that up more formally in the next item.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So can we discuss Appendix 1 now, or do you want to hold that off? Amon.
Yes, that's part of this report, Appendix 1.
So it was interesting around Tyro that they've there's been a readjustment on the risk factor there, and that obviously will be most probably interesting for the people there to see that there's the less likelihood of flooding, and it's been downgraded, I suppose, is the right word. And did that come from some discussions, did it?
So you're referring to page 29,
Yeah, 29. You're saying there's no active intervention now.
Yes. So what happened there is to the south, the area that's circled, it was really off the radar to some extent in terms of the Tyroa assessment. Through that engagement, there was discussions about those houses and whether they were impacted. It's a small number of houses, and so we went and looked more closely at the impacts there. The houses themselves are slightly higher, so less impacted, and the risk is quite long term. And so we, for clarity, noted that we wouldn't be promoting active intervention for those small number of houses shown in that circle.
Okay, great, thanks. That's good.
Any other discussion?
I'm happy to move to receive the information.
Kia ora, David. Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Kia ora, Tony. Just before we vote, picking up on the appendix, I had one question, page 21, Eamon. So this is the updated Manaia pathway, and as members might recall, there was some discussion at the last meeting, and helpfully the team went away and had further discussions with the good folk of Manaia. And so in the updated pathway, we've got fourth item, plan to protect kura and marae, which is good. And then we've got plan to retreat in hazard affected areas if signal reached. And I just wanted to confirm, Eamon, that those are mutually exclusive, aren't they? Those are very separate things.
Yes, they are. So we've specifically taken out the kura and marae, so there is clarity around that.
Just in case there's still any or perceived ambiguity, would it be right to say in other hazard affected areas or something like that, just to draw the distinction that this is not inclusive of the kura and the marae?
I think so. It's worth. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. I'd also note that the pathways don't sit just by themselves. There is some other words that add further clarity to the pathways. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be exactly those words, but I think you get the gist. So maybe if someone can make a note, and then that can be finalised. Okay, then. Well, we have a mover and a seconder, and so that's all approved. Thank you. Which takes us to 2.2, and so there are a couple of comments on this report. So does the team want to pick those up now?
Yes. Yep. So
having said that, I think they were lauding, they were supporting the sections that were identified.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. So this report is really about the outputs, and the two outputs are the Adaptation Pathways Report and the 138 coastal adaptation pathways that you've seen a few of in the earlier appendix. So this is taking all the outputs from the 2-3 years worth of work and combining them into an report so it's easily accessible for members of the public and staff. And this is a key recommendation today to do that. There's probably one other important thing to note is there's been, for clarity mostly, a name change proposed, and that's in the resolution. So it's proposed that it's not called plans anymore, it's called pathways. And I think that the pathways actually better represent the outputs of the project. So I'll just acknowledge that that's one key point in those resolutions. And the second one I wanted just to capture is, as we say, there's 138 coastal adaptation pathways in resolution 3, and then by error we go and say 134, so that just needs to be corrected to 38 as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eamon. Are there any of those earlier comments that folk want to pick up on, or additional comments, please, for this item? If we're good to go, and if I can have someone to move this report, please. Thank you, Tony. Someone to second. Thank you, Terry. That's approved. Takes us to 2.3, implementation planning.
Thank you, Paul. I'm not sure if you can see, but I see a hand up here.
Oh, sorry, I missed a hand. Sorry, Sian.
So that's me. Yes, and this actually should have happened before that was approved, the report. But Terry mentioned a spelling mistake.
I know. Look, it's way back at the start. It's just in the minutes of the meeting that I picked up, so not in the plan. Yeah, I was just going to flick it through to you and just tell you, so no drama.
Yeah, and then Robin had also, Robin, you would ask that if we can list the organisations that were involved in the technical advisory group?
Yeah, thanks, Sian. It mentions that the section of the paper that talks about it, which is I think about page 68, I've closed that tab now, mentions that you talked to the WRC, but I remember having discussions with you about having other agencies coming in as appropriate to the technical advisory group. So it's really just a reflection that if you have spoken to them, it should be in the document, if they've contributed to the process at all.
Yeah,
so that's all really.
I took it from Eamon's response earlier that was going to be done, so that was incorporated into the approval in terms of the report, picking up those comments. So it was good to confirm that, Sian. Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Implementation planning, Eamon?
Yeah, so this report is really for information as well. We're looking forward and starting on the implementation journey really soon, and so I kind of open it up a little bit. Any advice or discussion suggestions would be helpful as we pick up the implementation phase and start thinking about what we do next. So it's really for information, but also an opportunity for any advice or direction before we move to the next phase.
I'm happy, kia ora, I'm happy to start in a sense, and that is, and then I'll go to Tony. As much as we know, given that the election's not far away, there'll be some new membership on the council. In terms of those next steps, and we think about things like annual planning, long-term planning, etc. Any sense of, when council's up and running, committees, etc., when that will really sort of come into scope? Is that probably really calendar 23 that'll really get going, or even before Christmas?
Yeah, I can pick that up. I suppose in terms of we will be doing quite a lot of work soon to understand the costs and the scope and the implementation priorities. So there's even to understand how much it costs to start to protect some of these areas is a reasonable bit of technical work. So that we're not intending on holding back on some of that work, but that will feed into the long-term plan. A lot of it will, and that's where the real significant funding aspects would come in.
Okay, thank you. Terry and then Tony.
Yes, I'm really interested around our connections with WRC over the consents for sediment removal. I think there's a great opportunity there to be able to replenish those beaches with that, and also around the greater flexibility for planning to enable people to lift their floor levels or do that, and making that an easy process. I think a real key actions out of that, and we'd love to see those come into play when we get to it. So some great initiatives in those options that you put up.
Tony.
Yeah, my comments are a bit aligned with yours, Paul, in that there will be at least 4 and very likely more new councillors, and some community boards will be completely new, i.e. Mercury Bay. So I think this matter needs to be definitely front and centre with any induction programs, because this work is by and large taken place in this term. There are a lot of stakes in the ground now, and so a lot of it's not up for debate anymore. It'll be, for me, important to let the new elected representatives understand or know what this journey's been and how we've landed where we've landed, so that they are as informed as they can be as the implementation starts to get underway. So it's a key bit of work that it'll be a foreign language to a whole lot of people soon, and I think critical that we get this in front of the people, the returning people, to support it, and certainly the new people. So I just raise, it won't really worry me one way or the other, but I'd suggest that's what we do.
That's a good point. Kia ora, Sean, are you going to speak to this? Okay.
Through the chair,
Oh, yes.
can I just respond to Tony there that
Yes.
our team are working on the induction program, and I can make a note for Ari to talk to Amon and their team about an inclusion of sort of a staff update and briefing in that induction program.
Yeah, and for me, it's not a 5-minute once over. I would say I've been involved in a fair bit of this stuff, and sometimes information comes as pretty scant, and there's a lot going on when you first come into these roles. And yeah, I just ask, we take time so that people have a thorough understanding and continue to support the work that's been done by all of those people that have engaged in the process so far, and particularly now Amon and your team, as you'll be the people taking this thing forward. So yeah, I've just only asked that we make sure that we give it the time it deserves, because this is, in my mind, the biggest thing that we have done on this council in my 4 terms.
Tony. If there's no other discussion, do you want to respond to Damon?
Yeah, just quickly, I think reflecting on the journey that we've been on, one of the things that is often complimented is the time we took to go out and visit the sites. So getting out on the road and looking at the issues, and we'll consider that, and possibly that could be part of the induction when we plan that out more fully.
Yeah, good.
If there's no other discussion, and just before we complete this paper and this section of the meeting, just want to acknowledge the attendance of Aileen, and just see if you have any comments you'd like to make, Aileen, at this stage. Might be busy. So just to complete this paper, I'm happy to move. Someone to second, please.
Yep, I'll second it.
Thank you. So that's completed. Are there any members' reports?
I just wanted just a brief verbal one, if I can, Paul, just to say thank you again to the staff and to Sian and her crew. Fantastic. Like Tony says, this is most probably the biggest and the most organised process that I've seen in council. The consultation, the engagement has been fantastic, and it gives us a great step going forward that we can do something here. So a big thanks to you all, and most probably deserve a holiday now, so go and do it.
I won't speak to the holiday part, it's not my business, but here, fully support that. And kia ora, Tony.
Really endorsing what Terry said. This process for me has set up the way that all councils, but our one is one we're interested in, should seriously consider for a lot of things we do. The success, I know it's taken time, but it's been a massive piece of work, and most of it's been done behind the scenes that people like me have never seen, but I appreciate how much time and effort, particularly from a staff perspective. But with the citizens, I would say this success of this has been the way in which they have been engaged with. And I talk about this fondly to people, because I remember the first meetings where everyone that went to them had the solutions without understanding what the issues were. And over time, that changed, and the real change happened in the last 6 months, is when it really looked like the respective groups were on the same page and working collaboratively. So for me, it's a wonderful model, and going forward, it could be an annual plan, a long-term plan, any form of consultation. This model to me has demonstrated that if you take the time to go and get the citizens to engage, and by and large give them their solution, everyone lives happily ever after. So yeah, I'll have a lot of memories from my time, but this will be very, very high up on the list of what I call success stories. And yeah, I commend everyone that's been part of it. So, and I say thanks, because some of you I won't see again for a while.
Kia ora, Robin.
Really, the only thing to add to that is that I really, I've had quite a lot of feedback from members of the public appreciating that a lot of the consultation was done out of traditional work hours, which has meant that Sian and Amy in particular have had to give up weekends to go and do this engagement. Yeah. And I think the fact that we've had so much engagement and so many good conversations with the community is really thanks to you giving up your weekends to make it a flexible process for everybody. So thank you for that.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, Robin. Just checking, David, if you can hear us, any comments you'd like to make before we close up?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Good, David. Do we need to move members' reports?
I'm happy to move the members' reports.
Okay, I'll second. Thank you. Well, thank you all. That's been a crisp meeting, but an important one, and it really brings a culmination of that huge effort that's been spoken so well about. I'm sure I can speak for the Mayor in endorsing all those comments and looking forward to these next steps to going to Council and the decisions to be made there, and also agree that with new membership that will be important, that transition and passing over to the new Council, this important work. So well done to all, and we know this is a project of great interest, both domestically and internationally. So a lot of eyes are watching, and it's very important to us all. So thank you, and with that, I'll just close up. Ka ingoa tātou. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te tawhātua tātou riki au karaiti. Me te arawa tātua, me te whiwhinga te wairua tapu ake, amening. And we'll declare the meeting closed. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Kia ora.